So the first ever Elestrals Championship League has concluded, and I just want to make this video just kind of wrapping up my thoughts, my experiences, just about the whole being a part of it. So it's just going to be my face here, so feel free to tune out and just multitask and do whatever. Nothing interesting going to be going on stream, but let's just kind of start out with just how did I even become a part of it? Well, pretty much Luck, this is probably recap, people probably already said it, but I'll recap it anyway, but Luck reached out to Johnny, Baron, Wirtz, and I, all just Elestrals YouTubers, because he wanted to do a fun thing, because we're in a bit of a lull while waiting for product, and he wanted to do something cool. So he came up with this league where you get 5 participants, each taking one of the 5 elements, and thus what you saw ended up happening. And at first, I was a bit hesitant, honestly, to join, because just kind of like performance anxiety. Didn't know how I would do. I was a bit hesitant kind of being put on the spot every single week, is just kind of how I am. And also, I don't know if I was necessarily a bit nervous about the expectations I'd put on myself going into this, or just kind of, if I didn't perform well, how would it reflect and what would people be saying, since I did win the prototype tournament. But honestly, I've just had to get over it, because it doesn't really matter. Like the prototype tournament, it was months ago. While it was a blast, it was the prototype cards. It's a very different format. So frankly, like, I think it's just something awesome that happened, but I should not let it dictate what I do in the future and how I approach things as well. So when it came to actually like preparing and whatnot, I had to get myself into this mindset of just not worry about it, which is kind of true for everything, because at the end of the day, what did I want to get out of it? Because that's what's important. What did I want to get out of it? As long as I convey that to you all and really convey it in my videos, then I didn't think the results really mattered there. Not saying that, of course, that it wouldn't still upset me if I didn't do as well and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't really matter. So that's kind of the mindset I went into this with, is I just kind of want to see what I can do. It's a new experience. Let's treat it as such. Like, let's just not worry about like any past precedents whatsoever. And yeah. Though one big thing that did happen was the day after we recorded that announcement video, like picking our elements and whatnot, I got very sick. Not COVID, thankfully, but I did get a really bad cold, which I have not had in so long. And thankfully I had to buy the first week, because I was pretty much out that entire week. Like it was bad. I couldn't record anything. That's why my announcement video didn't come out until over a week later, was just because we recorded it at like 10 at night, that announcement video, and I was like, I'll record my own little announcement video. But then, actually, I don't even remember. I don't think I did an announcement video. I think I just jumped right into it. But I meant to do one, but then my voice was shot, so couldn't really do anything. And by the time I had a voice back and could record, it was pretty much time to make my deck profile for week 2. I think in week 2, I really didn't know what I was wanting to do. Again, I was kind of getting caught up with work and everything because I'd been sick. So I just threw something together and just faced off against Wirtz. I was like, let's see what happens. And of course, it didn't go so well, as you all know. But this week, I think that week was huge for me. Week 2 was huge, because the discussion Wirtz and I had afterwards, despite my disappointment, because I was like, I should be able to do better. I just didn't put in the time. I should have done better. After that discussion, and Wirtz kind of told me about the deck building philosophy he uses, I felt a huge change in like motivation, where I was like, let me try to make this work. Let me use this new deck building philosophy. Let me actually test my decks, and let me see what I can do here. Can I bounce back? So going into week 3 against Luck using fire, I then used that deck building philosophy and built a really interesting deck, honestly. Now, of course, I did a bit of testing, and I think that, I'm trying to remember here. I know that first game was really indicative of me just not really knowing the matchup too well. I wish I could remember exactly what was going on, but I think it was a good first test at the deck building philosophy and what I kind of had to do to prepare, but I don't think I was quite there in week 1, and that was evident by the fact that I lost game 1 and quickly course corrected for games 2 and 3. And I think it was just, I kind of got locked in this idea of like, what, and I tend to do this, like, what is my deck supposed to do? And then it takes me a second to actually like, wait, what's my opponent trying to do? Let me just course correct and see what happens. So I think that was what week 3 was for me. Not too bad there. I mean, of course I still won, so I can't really complain, but I think it was a good week as well, leading up to week 4, which I think was my best week by far. because I put in the most testing, I was the most determined, I felt like I had the most succinct strategy going into it, And I think part of it's also just the elemental matchup, which I'll get into after I kind of just run through these thoughts. But in that week, that felt really great. I prepared, I was ready for it. My deck did exactly what I needed it to. And I felt like, other than that one like first game misplay where neither Johnny and I caught that he had a Capricorn out with a Galaxy, other than that, it went great. So I felt very, very good about that week. Very proud of the work I put in and what it showed for, and it kind of renewed my confidence there as well, that I could perform well. It just kind of, again, showed that I need to put in the work to do that. And honestly, I feel like what I struggle with the most, well, I'll get to that because that's actually relevant for the final week. But then week 5 was against Baron, who was piloting Thunder. And that week I did put in a lot of prep as well. I feel like I had the best strategy I could. I think the only thing that I arguably could have done better was I adhere more to the deck building philosophies that Wirtz and I discussed, because I do feel like when it actually came to the game, I was bricking a bit. And if I just kind of adjusted some ratios and kind of got out of this old mindset that I was in, it would have been better. And that old mindset, I think that's actually really worth discussing, was I was kind of in this mindset of, well, I'm wanting to do this one thing and get out there quickly, even though it really wasn't the most realistic. And because of that, I ran more cards than I should have. Like, I was breaking on Aeoluses, and I think there's a few other things, but pretty much I feel like I could have fine-tuned my deck better is what I'm getting at here. Just there's some cards that I ran at more copies than I needed to, and that could have been done better. But overall, I think it was still a really solid strategy. I think it was just a bit unfortunate that in that week, at least those games, that game 1, I believe, was just it was how it was. Baron just got the nuts hand, and I knew that was that. And then game 2, I did definitely misplay there, and that one was on me. But game 3 kind of showed off what my deck wanted to do. So that week was, I think, just a bit rough in general. Not so much that I didn't prepare enough. The other thing was there's actually a 1-day break in between actually playing the games and me testing my deck. And I feel like I should have done a touch up there. But also, I think the other important context why I can't like just beat myself up too much over it, even though I'm like, dang, I wish I could have done more. Because Baron lives in Japan, we had to do our game morning for me, so I pretty much just took my lunch break early that day and ran the game back. And it was like I was literally just doing this in between meetings just to kind of get it done, and then I just worked during lunch. So it was one of those things where it was kind of a hectic day because of it. So I'm having to switch from like meeting mindset to playing Elestrals mindset after it having been a full day since I tested my deck. So I think that's part of the reason I was making those misplays. So probably just if I really wanting to win, I probably should have just set myself up better planning wise to make sure I have time to get myself in the correct mindset and whatnot. But wasn't realistic that week. It is what it is. Stuff like this happens. So this is of course not to say Baron didn't earn that match. He totally did. But I do think it's, at least with how my mind works, it's important to acknowledge what is what I can improve, and what's just, that's just how it is. Move on from it. And I think that's kind of one of those things, was just it wasn't the best time for me, but I agreed to it. So results are what they are. But then we move into the finals, and I feel like this is where what I was alluding to earlier really comes into play. And that was just actually preparing for it, because I literally built my deck a few days beforehand. I was like, went pure theory on it, and pure theory? Theory. I don't know why. Anyway, pure theory on that one. And yeah, the results speak for themselves. I did not do well. I did not play well. It's frankly an embarrassment compared to the last time that I was playing on stream. But goes to show you, I made my choice. I chose not to practice. I chose just to run into it blind, just because, partially because I knew my inclination would be to like hyper optimize it, and it's kind of hard to do that when you're under a gentleman's agreement. So I thought it'd be better to go in blind, but at the same time, I just don't perform well if I go in blind. I perform better with prep. So I feel like I should have done something, but like honestly, I had been so busy that week. I'd gotten slammed at work with stuff and kind of had to like readjust midweek to something blowing up in my face at work. So honestly, by the time we got to that Saturday, I was just I've been working nonstop pretty much all week. I was burnt out beyond belief, and hence why these videos are coming out pretty much like a week later than I had originally intended to, is just because after like Saturday or Sunday, I was visiting family for Father's Day. So by the time I got to Monday, which I thankfully had the day off, I was just like, I want to do nothing. So yeah, again, it's one of those things where could I have done more? Absolutely. Should I have done more? I would have at least liked to, because I was performing for an audience there. Is there anything to do about it now? Nope. So I accept. Honestly, I even said to myself, like, if I just don't perform well, like, I made my choice not to try to make time to actually do that. So, oh well. But I think I got my point across. I hope I did. I might watch this back and be like, you forgot to talk about that, but is what it is. But that was kind of, I think, my thoughts running through week by week. We're already 10 minutes in, so let's actually move on to the elemental matchup. A big thing about this one that made it very interesting. And I definitely think it swayed some matches and definitely made some decks more vulnerable than others. But overall, I actually don't think it was as bad as I thought it was. Like, honestly, Earth was the clear, I guess, best deck or best element from this. But honestly, I feel like Earth, well, it's definitely very good. I think Thunder actually really showed that it could keep up. And those two were by far and away the best decks. I think it's kind of hard to say. Actually, I think it's very clear by the finals that they're pretty even in terms of like being able to do stuff. One wrong step and either player can really lose. So I definitely think those two are by far and away the best elements, the two I ended up losing to during the regular weeks at least. Meanwhile, fire, wind, and water I think were definitely a bit more tricky, a bit trickier to work with. Let's use proper grammar here. Baron, don't kill me. But they were definitely the trickier elements to use. Johnny in particular had no access to rune removal. He could shut stuff down with the Trident Lock, but he had no rune removal, which definitely made him very susceptible to back row, which I'm pretty sure everyone used effectively against him. And then, like, was it Luck as well? Did he have... No, he did not have access to back row removal either, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think there's any fire cards. No, there's not. Yeah, there's no fire cards that pop back row. So he had to deal with that. He had the advantage over water of being a lot more aggressive to kind of make up for that. But still, though, it definitely left a huge hole there. And so I think that's why those 2 weeks I found it a bit easier to deck build and feel a lot more confident, was because I had those clear weaknesses to exploit. While going against Earth and Thunder, I did not. I honestly don't have too much to say against the Thunder or the Earth matchup, because I had that huge change after the Earth matchup and talking to Words that I think would have dictated me being able to better analyze and to prepare for that matchup. But I think Thunder is where there's a lot of talking points, because I actually think I was spot on with Thunder in my analysis. Just if Baron can get off everything he needs to, like, he's got Searchers. He pretty much has anything he can control with, and it's super impressive in such a very limited format when the rest of us are very limited on control tools as well, and the format in general is just very grindy. So that, I definitely think I was spot on with that one, and I think the results did show that, especially showing the game 3 where I could definitely do something, but the stars kind of need to align for me to do so, and of course me not misplaying either. So just really honestly really fascinating stuff there, just kind of showing off the different mono elements and whatnot. Again, I think Thunder just had Thunder, this is a good way to describe it. Thunder had all the control cards, just the highest quality one spirits in the game, in just in mass in their element. Meanwhile, Earth probably had the best synergies to kind of do a little bit of everything, which is really hard to predict, and that's what Wirtz's advantage was. Meanwhile, my advantage was just big scary threats such as Pantera or Stratomoth, which I really didn't use against that a bit. Water, I feel like Water was the one that struggled the most because it has a really good strategy going into it. The problem is that it just needs those other elemental cards to supplement it, and I think that's the real issue Johnny was having with it. And then Fire was an interesting one just because I feel like that's the one I kind of kept up. I think it kept up with the least. I also think it's a bit hard because Luck had the bye in one of the later weeks and then didn't end up playing the finals, so that's why it's not as fresh in my mind. I think, and it's also really hard because I feel like in my matchup against Luck, he did have the advantage of my deck being expensive and him having a ton of burn stuff, and he just didn't find it. that's what I think the real issue was. But I think fire is very one note and actually pretty easy to prepare for. I think that was the issue going into it. Like, it's not bad, but it's just easy to prepare for, and I feel like all of us had stuff to actually really counter it. So that's the elemental analysis. But I do think actually wind really surprised me. I'll say that right now. When I picked it, I was like, oh, it's got a lot of cool stuff. Like, I got a lot of control tools and whatnot. I got some cool big threats that I can make work with Bag of Winds to protect against stuff like resting on your laurels. But, oh, and Earthquake, that's another big one. And then Arrowmare to help protect against stuff like Kinleo and Boombat, if relevant, and Galvanon. But when I went to actually build this, it felt clunky. Like, I just didn't have enough one spirits to feel comfortable rounding it out. And I think that's the biggest problem that I saw consistently throughout every week was I just wasn't drawing an Elestral. Well, other than against Baron, but I purposely played around that, really noticing that weakness. So I think Elestral quality really hurt Wind. And I think it was more so just, they've got some good Elestrals, it's just they don't have enough. In sheer quantity, they just don't have as much as some of the other elements, on top of the fact that it was almost like they're just good splashable stuff. But like when it comes to control, Baron's got the better control cards overall. And then in terms of synergy, again, it just, my cards has some cool synergies, but they just paled in comparison to synergies that Earth had as well. And that's the real issue I ran into. But with that being said, though, I think I actually made the most of it. Like, when I brought the Chrysaor stuff, I think Chrysaor was honestly the MVP of my deck at the end of the day. And I think the two matches that really showed it off was against Luck playing fire and Johnny playing water. I feel like that's where Chrysaor absolutely shined. And I feel like because it was such a limited format, I could actually make really good use of it. I think normally Chrysaor is going to be a bit more difficult to utilize just because every deck can run Earthquake. But because I didn't have to deal with Earthquake against anyone but Wirtz, I felt much more free to use Chrysaor to actually get advantage of its recovery. Being able to hit over Johnny's stuff was huge, which was really awesome. I think the other synergy that was really notable that only showed up in the match against Johnny, because every other deck I feel like could better answer it, was just P-Gust and Exaltair. And I only showed it off in one game, but that was an awesome combo, honestly. I really wish that they had a bit more impact to be able to utilize that, because just being able to burn and pop back row is awesome. But unfortunately, with their low stat totals, it doesn't really work. Like, Exaltair would probably need to be back at 4 attack and P-Gust maybe at 4 defense for it to even be feasible. And frankly, just I think both Wirtz and Baron had the better combo of those cards, with Baron having Equal Links plus Clovey to be able to just draw cards while popping back row, as opposed to Burning Spirits. But I think that's just a bit better one, because Equal Links is better statted. Both Equal Links and Clovey are honestly better statted. And I think just the draw plus the pop is a bit better than burn than the pop, because it lets them grind out a bit more. This feels like more of a grind game overall, especially as Earth can regen spirits anyway. But for me, it's just kind of I should actually explain Baron's. And then Baron's ability just to use Astrabbit or Toxin. He's got double, so even better. Just be able to hand rip cards, reducing resources on my part, and then burn for more spirits, or be able to plus, like more control plus, is really, really strong. So I think they just had the better versions of what my deck was able to do. But still, like, a neat synergy to actually be able to see it. I think I was very impressed by that one. But is really any other thoughts I have? I think I kind of went over it. It was a very rambly video, but I feel like it's appropriate to be rambly for this video. So I'll break here just to think for a second. Oh, duh. Easy roundup stuff. Did I enjoy myself? Absolutely. Once I got into the flow of making content, it was actually a really fun routine to get myself into. Get a video out Friday for my deck profile, gameplay up on Saturday. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed like preparing each week. Built up the nerves a little bit, but again, like once I really got into it, and I was honestly, like, my biggest takeaway was, as I said, going into it, my goal, I wanted to win. I was definitely aiming to win, but my big goal was just, can I effectively use win and build decks that I feel good? And I feel really great about it afterwards. I feel like my deck building is only improved because of it, which is the main goal I want to get out of it, because at the end of the day, my favorite thing to do is just test out new decks and see if I can make it work. And I got to do exactly that with a challenge on there, which is really neat. And the other thing was, I actually really loved my thumbnails for this series. I had a blast making these, just all the different stuff I was able to do with Oh gosh, the cutting out the Elestrals and like having them face off against each other. I could show off the process, but that actually might be a fun like time lapse video. But regardless, I really enjoyed making the thumbnails for this series. It was a lot of fun. A bit more work than usual, but it was a fun challenge, and I was always happy with the end result as well. So I'm really excited to, once the content creator package comes out, I don't remember what it's exactly called that, but instead of having to cut out the images myself, I can actually just have them at my fingertips. Because of course, if it ever looked a bit weird, like some parts were covering up some of the Elestrals, it's because there literally was like a little cutout because they met the edge of the border. But that was, I don't know, what was more fun. I feel like on the content creation side, I was making the thumbnails, but actual playing was like seeing my deck actually work. That was the really satisfying part. And of course, I just enjoyed playing with all the people here. It was an awesome group of people. I really enjoyed getting to know Luck a bit better. We actually found out that we live in the same town, so IRL content with Luck and I, that's going to be fun. And then of course, just when I haven't played recently against Johnny, both our matches were a blast from the like discussion part as we're playing it live. I always enjoy playing against Baron, and then against Wirtz, we had really good conversation just about philosophy with the game afterwards. So very different interactions with all three of them, but all four of them. Sorry, four of them, all four of them, and it was just a lot of fun to do each week, kind of come back for more. And of course, it was awesome for the finals to be able to stream it on the app. First app gameplay, not by the official Elestrals channel. Of course, the app isn't fully ready yet at the time we were filming it, but we're just happy that it worked well. And I was even more impressed because I was running on BlueStacks to be able to record it, because the phone I've been using is not very good. Like, I usually have an iPhone, but I was using a very old Android phone that my fiance had to be able to play it, but it just didn't work for recording and whatnot. So I played it on BlueStacks, and I was a bit worried because, of course, as you're using an emulator, you can run into more issues, but it ran flawlessly, which, fingers crossed, like, it keeps doing that. That was amazing. And oh gosh, I think at this point I can spoil it as well, but I think I said, yeah, thanks to Dan do that. And also for being willing to like stream it on Discord and just commentate it. That was awesome to see as well. And to everyone who showed up in the chat, that was awesome as well. Alex, thank you for calling me out on being, I don't know how to put it. I was trying to do something snarky. Alex, you know where you are, and you called me out in the chat for my horrible gameplay in there. That's too harsh, but no, I enjoyed just everyone commenting, like the GGs, the like fun banter after the fact as well. That's May was referring to with Alex. Like, it was a lot of fun. Just thanks to everyone. That was a real blast to be a part of, even if the results I was very disappointed in. But the point was more to just be a part of the community, and I think it really shined through. And of course, for those of you who are live, you actually got to see the finals because no one recorded it, and that was absolutely hilarious. Man, I would like it's one of the best games that I've ever seen. Just, it was also so fun seeing in the chat because, gosh, just everyone saying like, oh, I can spoil it at this point in this video. If you haven't seen it already, here's a disclaimer. If you haven't seen it already, well, actually, you can't watch it. Go watch Baron and Wirtz's video on it, because they did upload something. I don't know how much they talked about it because I haven't had time to watch it. But just seeing that back and forth at the very end of the game, everyone being like, oh, Wirtz clearly has it. And then Johnny called it. He's like, no, Wirtz can definitely mess it up here. And then when Baron threw out the Toxeon, when Wirtz had 2 spirits left, I just remember Johnny and I in chat being like, if Baron has Alter, he wins. And that was so awesome to see. Just kind of just that moment of just like, oh my gosh. And it was so funny because everyone, when it happened, everyone flipped out. Johnny and I, because we're like, we called it. But we had also been playing this format for so long that, you know, we're kind of attuned to these things because we need to actually pay attention to it in the match against Baron. But then just seeing everyone else blow up like, whoa, big brain play. And it was a big brain play, but it was just kind of awesome just seeing that dynamic and everyone being like, wait, how does Alter win before it actually happened? Like, it literally, I remember in chat, I was just like, if Baron has Alter, he wins. And that's just my analytical mind running through it. I'm usually one like analyzing the gameplay instead of just sitting back and just being like, oh, let's see what happens. But it was funny. I remember someone said in chat to me, like, how does Alter win it? And that's kind of hard to, if you haven't actually really played in depth to the game, I think it's a bit hard to see those kind of things. That's very much an advanced skill. And I was about to respond, and then Baron flipped Alter. I was just like, just watch. It's going to be fun. But again, I'm actually glad for everyone who watched that. If you didn't know why that would win it, I'm so glad you got to see it, because now you do know, and you know how much, how the depths of Elestrals, that's a good way to word it, how deep Elestrals can get, the depths of Elestrals. I phrased that weirdly. You get what I mean. But yeah, that was awesome. So again, thanks to Dan for allowing us to use the app, allow us to post the actual gameplay. It was awesome, especially for it being an unofficial tournament hosted by Luck. Of course, thank you to Luck for putting this together. I really appreciate him doing this. It was a blast to do, and I hope we can do it again in the future. And thanks to Baron, Wirtz, and Johnny for just being awesome opponents every single week. I had a blast playing against all of you, and again, I look forward to just interacting with the community at large in the future as well. But I think that's enough rambling here. This video is like 25 minutes long. I think I got all my thoughts out. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know down below, what was your favorite part of from the Elestrals Championship League? I hope from my videos at least that you might have learned something about deck building and just kind of prep theory, even if it isn't too relevant if we're having mixed elements. That's my goal, just kind of share how I was learning and whatnot. So I hope it resonated with you all. But enough of that being said though, just kind of final outro stuff as I usually do. At the time you're recording this, people from Australia have been getting their cards. The first stellar's been pulled. It's super exciting, and hopefully for everyone else, product will not be too far behind. We're really close to July, which is like the early estimate, and honestly not too far from August, but pretty much you can expect a lot more Elestrals content coming out from me as we push towards it, from product openings, just more deck profiles, more gameplay, because we should be getting permission to actually stream and record videos or post videos from the app soon. So just a ton of stuff, a ton of more potential in content creation. So if you're hyped for it and haven't done so already, please consider subscribing and turning on the notification bell so you're notified when I upload more Elestrals content. But with that being said though, let's do my normal outro. Wow, I almost did it in one take. Well, at least a cockroach hasn't interrupted me like the last two things. But let's do my normal outro. Look forward to more content coming out real soon.